Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you love captivating stories about men transforming into women in unique and fascinating ways, then be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Now, let's jump right into today's tale.
Chapter 8, Afterglow. Saruto's heels clicked against the cobblestone street with a rhythmic staccato as she and Ino left the Lantern Club, their laughter trailing behind them like perfume on the night breeze. The cool evening air was a blessed relief after the heat and pulse of the dance floor, caressing her flushed skin and providing a moment of clarity that had been impossible in the sensory overload of the club. Despite the chill, Saruto's cheeks were still burning, her heart racing in a way she couldn't blame on the music or the exertion of dancing. Every step in those silver heels sent unfamiliar sensations up her calves, muscles working differently than in her original form. Her center of gravity had shifted entirely, hips swaying naturally with each step, the fluid motion so different from Naruto's usual confident stride. The dress clung to curves that still felt foreign, the silky material sliding against sensitive skin with each movement. Even breathing felt different, her chest rising and falling in a rhythm that emphasized the soft weight there. Ino looped her arm through Saruto's, steadying her on a particularly uneven section of pavement. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement or alcohol or both, blue eyes gleaming in the lamplight like polished sapphires. She grinned like a fox who'd found an unguarded henhouse, her expression making it clear that tonight's events would feed the village gossip mill for weeks. "You and Sasuke, you nearly set the room on fire, you know," Ino declared, voice carrying in the quiet street. "I swear I saw actual smoke coming off the dance floor. If he doesn't ask you out after that, he's officially the densest man alive. And considering we're talking about a guy who missed every hint Sakura dropped for years, that's saying something." Saruto giggled, then immediately clapped a hand over her mouth, caught off guard by the musical sound. It wasn't the deep, throaty chuckle of her male form, but something lighter, more melodic, a sound that seemed to float on the air rather than rumble through it. Everything about this body expressed emotions differently, laughter higher, sighs softer, even anger manifesting as a more contained heat rather than explosive outbursts. "I think I just survived my first real date," she admitted, letting her hand fall away from her mouth. "With two people at once." She nudged Ino playfully with her elbow, then winced as the motion threw off her balance and her heel caught on a loose stone in the pavement. For a terrifying moment, she teetered on the edge of disaster. Ino steadied her with the practiced ease of someone who'd rescued many a wobbly friend from similar predicaments. Her arm tightened around Saruto's, her other hand coming up to grasp her elbow. "Whoa there, princess. No face planting on my watch." She smirked, eyebrows waggling suggestively. "At least not on pavement. Other surfaces with the right company, that's entirely your business." "Ino," Saruto gasped, scandalized despite herself. The heat in her cheeks intensified, spreading down her neck and across her chest in a blush that felt wholly different from anything she'd experienced in her male form, more diffuse, more consuming. "What? I'm just being practical." Ino's innocent expression didn't fool either of them. "Careful, those legs are a national treasure now. Half the bar was staring at them all night, including our resident brooding avenger." She squeezed Saruto's arm affectionately. "So, how does it feel, being Konoha's most eligible kunoichi? One dance with Sasuke Uchiha, and you've basically claimed the throne Sakura abdicated when she decided medical ninjutsu was more interesting than dating." Saruto hesitated, glancing down at her shimmering dress, at the way it clung to her hips and swished around her thighs with each step. She'd spent the evening hyper-aware of her body in ways she'd never experienced before, the brush of fabric against sensitive skin, the weight of eyes following her movements, the peculiar vulnerability and power that came with being desired. "Weird, fun, terrifying," she finally admitted, voice softer than intended. "Like being on a mission where I don't know the objective or the terrain, but somehow I'm still enjoying it." She ran a hand through her pink hair, still styled in loose waves that fell differently than her usual spiky locks ever had. "I keep expecting someone to shout prank and dump a bucket of water on my head." Ino squeezed her arm, her expression softening into something almost tender. "Sweetheart, you're not dreaming, you're just hot." She reached up to tuck a stray strand of hair behind Saruto's ear, the gesture surprisingly gentle. "And for the record, Sasuke's eyes never left you. Not when you were dancing with me, not when you were at the bar, not even when you were just talking to Sakura in the corner. That boy's got it bad. Saruto's heart fluttered again, and this time she didn't try to blame it on Sakura's leftover feelings or the temporary effects of her borrowed body. She'd felt it. The way Sasuke's hands lingered at her waist, the way his breath tickled her ear when he leaned in to speak, the subtle but unmistakable tension between them that made the air feel charged with potential energy. "You're exaggerating," she protested weakly, but even she didn't believe it. Something had changed tonight, something had shifted between them, creating possibilities that had never existed before. "Please," Ino scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. "I'm a sensor type, remember? I can practically feel the hormones radiating off both of you. It's enough to make a girl jealous." She flipped her long ponytail over her shoulder with practiced ease. "Though I have to admit, I'm a little confused. I always thought he had a thing for Sakura, or possibly for—" She stopped abruptly, a speculative gleam entering her eyes. Interesting." "What's interesting?" Saruto asked, suddenly wary of that look. Ino's intuition was legendary, and she'd already proven dangerously perceptive about the whole situation. Nothing," Ino said airily, waving a dismissive hand. "Just connecting some dots. Anyway, this is where we part ways, gorgeous. I've got an early shift at T&I tomorrow, and you've got a lot to process." They'd reached the intersection where their paths diverged, Ino toward the Yamanaka compound, Saruto toward Sakura's apartment in the medical district. Ino leaned in, pressing a kiss to Saruto's cheek that left a smudge of pink lipstick behind. "Sweet dreams," she murmured, her breath warm against Saruto's ear. "I expect full details tomorrow, especially if there's a sequel to tonight's little dance floor drama." Before Saruto could respond, Ino was sauntering away, hips swaying with deliberate provocation, leaving her standing alone under the streetlight with lipstick on her cheek and confusion in her heart. The rest of the walk home passed in a blur of sensation and thought. Saruto removed the torture devices Ino, and Sakura insisted on calling shoes, dangling them from one hand as she padded barefoot along the quiet streets. The cool pavement against her soles was a relief after hours of being perched on silver stilts, though she found herself walking more carefully than she would have in her male form, sensitive to every pebble and rough patch. The village was quiet, bathed in moonlight that softened its edges and cast long shadows across her path. A few late-night vendors were still operating, the scent of grilled meat and sweet dumplings mingling with the crisp autumn air. Several of them called out greetings to Sakura-san's cousin, their eyes lingering appreciatively on her dress and bare legs. One particularly bold dango seller offered her a free skewer for the prettiest girl in Konoha tonight, which she accepted with a blush and a mumbled thank you. By the time she reached Sakura's apartment, her feet were cold, her head was spinning with the events of the evening, and her heart was a confused tangle of emotions she couldn't begin to sort out. She let herself in quietly, assuming Sakura would be asleep after her early departure from the club. But Sakura was waiting in the kitchen, cradling a steaming mug between her palms, wearing soft flannel pajamas and a knowing smile that made Saruto pause in the entryway. The apartment was dim, lit only by a small lamp on the counter, casting everything in a warm, golden glow that felt intimate and safe. "So?" Sakura asked, voice teasing but gentle. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, freed from its usual precise styling. She looked younger like this, more like the girl Naruto had first known and less like the formidable medical ninja she'd become. "How was it? After I left, I mean, Ino's messages were colorful but lacking in actual detail." Saruto dropped onto a stool at the kitchen island, tossing the heels aside with a sigh of pure relief. She stretched her toes, wiggling them appreciatively. "I danced, with Ino and Sasuke." She raised a hand to her temple, where a headache was beginning to form from the combined effects of loud music, too many new sensations, and the tight hairstyle Ino had insisted on. "And I didn't fall on my face, or anyone else's, which, given these shoes, is probably the biggest achievement of my life." Sakura laughed, the sound warm and unrestrained in the quiet kitchen. "You looked incredible," she said, and there was no jealousy in her tone, only a kind of proud amazement. "Ino posted a picture to her story, and now half the village is swooning. I've already received 3 separate messages asking for your contact information." Saruto groaned, burying her face in her hands. The motion sent her earrings swinging, tickling the sensitive skin of her neck. Please tell me you're kidding. Nope. Sakura's grin was audible in her voice. I'm pretty sure Kiba wants your number, and Shikamaru said you're troublesome in a good way, which from him is practically a marriage proposal. She paused, her tone shifting subtly. And then there's Sasuke. Saruto peeked out from behind her fingers, heart rate accelerating at the mere mention of his name. What about him? She asked, aiming for casual and missing by several miles. Sakura's eyes softened, her expression a complex mixture of emotions, amusement, wistfulness, maybe a touch of resignation. He's not good at hiding things, not when it comes to people he cares about. Never has been despite that whole stoic Uchiha act. She traced the rim of her mug with one finger, gaze distant. He looked at you tonight the way he used to look at me, like you're the only person in the room, like everyone else just, fades into background noise. Something twisted in Saruto's stomach, equal parts excitement and guilt. The confirmation that what she'd felt hadn't been imagination sent a thrill through her, but it was tempered by the knowledge that Sakura had history there, complicated feelings that couldn't be dismissed. It's so confusing, Sakura-chan, she admitted, dropping her hands to the cool countertop. The glittery nail polish Ino had insisted on applying caught the light, another reminder of how different everything was now. I'm still me, but everything feels different. The way people look at me, talk to me, touch me, she broke off, remembering Sasuke's hand at her waist, the heat of his palm through the thin fabric of her dress. I can't tell if it's your body or my heart that's reacting, or both. The distinction between physical response and emotional connection had never seemed so blurry. In her male form, desire had been straightforward, obvious, unmistakable, often inconvenient, but always clear. This was different. A slow burn that seemed to radiate from somewhere deep in her core, spreading outward in waves that left her skin tingling and her thoughts scattered. Sakura set her mug down with a soft clink, coming to sit on the stool beside her. Her expression was thoughtful, not angry or hurt as Saruto had half feared. Maybe it's both, she said simply. Maybe you're finally seeing what it's like to be desired and to want someone back. It's not easy, but it's real. She shrugged, a small smile playing at her lips. And maybe Sasuke's seeing you, the real you, for the first time without all the baggage and history getting in the way. Saruto looked down at her hands, small, delicate, painted with Ino's glittery polish. They seemed alien still, these slender fingers with their neat oval nails, so different from her usual calloused, square-tipped hands. And yet they were becoming familiar, these hands that moved with Sakura's grace but were animated by Naruto's spirit. What if I like it? She whispered, voicing the thought that had been growing in the back of her mind all evening. What if I want to stay like this? The question hung in the air between them, heavy with implications neither was fully ready to explore. Sakura squeezed her shoulder, the gesture warmly supportive. That's your choice, she said, and there was no judgment in her voice. And whatever you decide, I'll help you. That's what friends do. She paused, then added with a wry smile, though I'd appreciate getting my body back eventually. I've grown rather attached to it over the years. A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the distant sounds of the village settling into night. A dog barking, the soft murmur of voices passing in the street below, the rustle of leaves in the breeze outside the kitchen window. Then softly, Sakura nudged her. So, are you going to see him again? Saruto bit her lip, a gesture that felt increasingly natural, remembering the way Sasuke's eyes had lingered on her as she left the dance floor, the barely perceptible softening of his expression when she'd laughed at something he said. She recalled the warmth of his hand on her waist, the undeniable chemistry between them, the promise in his eyes when he'd said, "Save me another dance." I think I'd like to, she admitted, the words soft but certain. Sakura smiled, a little wistfully but with genuine warmth. Then you should, and if you need any advice on how to handle an Uchiha, you know where to find me. She raised her mug in a mock toast. God knows I've had enough practice dealing with their particular brand of emotional constipation. They both laughed, and for the first time since the transformation, Saruto felt at peace, excited, nervous, but also right. Maybe this was a new adventure, one she never would have chosen, but now couldn't imagine giving up. There was something liberating about experiencing the world from this different perspective, about discovering new aspects of relationships she'd thought she understood completely. Her phone, or rather, the spare one Sakura had lent her for this undercover mission, buzzed on the countertop where she'd abandoned it earlier. The screen lit up with a notification, displaying a message from an unknown number. Saruto picked it up, curious, then felt her breath catch as she read the simple text. "Save me a dance next time, S." Just 5 words, and yet they carried a weight, a promise, a potential that made her skin prickle with anticipation. She didn't need to ask who had sent it or how they'd gotten her number. Only one person signed their messages with that particular initial. Only one person would be so cryptically direct. Saruto's smile lit up the room, transforming her borrowed features into something uniquely, radiantly her own. The joy that bubbled up from within had nothing to do with hormones or body chemistry. It was pure, unfiltered happiness, the kind that transcended physical form. "What are you going to reply?" Sakura asked, leaning over to read the message, her eyes widening slightly at the sender's initial. Saruto considered for a moment, fingers hovering over the screen. What would Naruto say? What would Sakura say? What did she, in this new existence between identities, want to say? Finally, with a grin that was pure mischief, she typed, "Only if you promise to keep up this time. Some of us have natural rhythm. Saruto." She hit send before she could second-guess herself, then set the phone down with a decisive click. The ball was in his court now, and knowing Sasuke, he'd never back down from a challenge, especially one delivered with such brazen confidence. "Bold," Sakura commented, reading the reply over her shoulder. "He'll either be annoyed or intrigued." "With Sasuke, those are usually the same thing," Saruto replied with a laugh. She stretched, the motion sending interesting sensations through her still unfamiliar body. "I should probably get out of this dress before I accidentally rip it. I have no idea how you wear these things voluntarily." "The sacrifices we make for beauty," Sakura intoned solemnly, then broke into a grin. "Go on, get changed. I left some makeup remover wipes on your nightstand. Trust me, you don't want to sleep with all that mascara on unless you're going for the raccoon look tomorrow." Saruto slid off the stool, gathering her discarded shoes and clutch purse. At the doorway to the bedroom, she paused, looking back at Sakura with sudden seriousness. "Thank you," she said simply, "for everything. For helping me through this, for not freaking out, for understanding." Sakura's expression softened. "That's what teammates do," she replied, echoing words spoken long ago on a very different night. "Now go to bed before you crash and I have to carry you. Some of us have work in the morning, you know." Saruto nodded, stifling a yawn that had crept up unexpectedly. The evening's excitement was catching up with her, exhaustion settling into muscles unaccustomed to dancing in heels for hours. "Good night, Sakura-chan." "Good night, Saruto," Sakura replied, the name coming naturally now, as if it had always been part of their shared vocabulary. As Saruto closed the bedroom door behind her, she caught a glimpse of herself in the vanity mirror. Flushed cheeks, slightly smudged makeup, hair falling in tousled waves around her shoulders, the midnight blue dress shimmering in the low light. Despite the late hour and the physical fatigue, her eyes were bright, alive with possibilities. For the first time since this transformation began, she looked at her reflection and didn't see Sakura, or a stranger, or even a disguise. She saw herself, Saruto, a person in her own right, with her own path unfolding before her like an unexpected gift. Her phone buzzed again as she set it on the nightstand. Another message from the same unknown number. "Challenge accepted. Tomorrow, 8 p.m., wear something red." Saruto's smile widened, anticipation chasing away the last vestiges of fatigue. Tomorrow promised to be very interesting indeed.